Hey y'all, I'm Alex, and this is the Forest Family.
What is love? Baby, don't hurt me. Baby, don't hurt me no more.
So before we get into this video, make sure you hit that like button and subscribe, and comment down below on what types of videos you'd like to see from us. Now let's get talking about vacation. Jocelyn and I are back from our vacation, and what a vacation it was. It was quite a doozy, and I know saying doozy, I'm probably aging myself, making myself sound really, really old.
Why, you old fool!
But when we got married last year, it was at the beginning of COVID, and our wedding date was April 4th, and COVID shut everything down the week before that. So our guest list, in the matter of like a week and a half, got cut from 150 guests to 10. And that 10 included ourselves, the pastor, our wedding parties, and the photographer. And thank God our friends Shannon and JP stepped in as photographer, because if it weren't for them, we wouldn't have had a photographer, because our photographer backed out at the last possible minute. So Shannon and JP, I know we've thanked you a few times, but thank you again for that. Like, it meant so much to us. So when Jocelyn and I were talking about this vacation, we knew that we wanted to go and travel and see family. And the two of us and my mom had already planned that we would go down to Nashville. And Jocelyn and I figured, well, you know, why don't we drive down to Nashville and then we'll just fly to Omaha. And I'm gonna tell you this, flights are expensive. So that plan kind of got scrapped, and we were talking about it, and we figured, well, why don't we just make it a big road trip? And we decided, well, what if we drive from Connecticut to Grand Rapids, and we see Jocelyn's aunt, then we drive from Grand Rapids to Omaha, we can see her grandma, and then we can drive from Omaha down to Nashville, and we can see my side of the family. So Friday to Saturday, like at midnight, we left, we got on the road, and we drove from here to Cleveland. We got to Cleveland around 10 a.m., and we decided that this is the perfect time for a break, and we went and we experienced the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, which if you have never been to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, it's pretty cool. I've spent a lot of time going to the Country Music Hall of Fame, and it's really neat to see all the exhibits, and you get to see like entire growth of country music from like start to like where it is now. That's kind of how I expected the rock and roll to be, but it was more like vignettes of, hey, this is how this person influenced rock and roll, and this is how they influenced rock and roll. And it was really neat to see that. They had one hallway that kind of showed the growth of how different areas of the country in different areas of the world have influenced rock and roll music, and that was really cool. I'd expect that the entire museum would be more like that, but it's really cool to see that there are a lot more interactive exhibits, especially during a time of COVID where, like, you know, you can't be doing a lot of interactive, so it's interactive on a large scale. One of the interactive exhibits was the Weeknd's Super Bowl halftime show, where you were able to walk through the light tunnels that he had at the Super Bowl halftime show and kind of recreate and simulate that feeling of being there and being him. And I thought that was kind of cool. After we took our time there and we kind of rested and relaxed, we drove from Cleveland to Michigan. And it was about another 5, 6, 7 hours on the road. And we finally got there around dinner time, and we got to spend some time with Jocelyn's aunt and uncle, and it was fun. Her uncle and I now have this great impression of Willie Nelson, where whenever you're gonna sing like Willie Nelson, please don't attack me in the comments for this, but if you're gonna sing like Willie Nelson, you gotta plug your nose. After spending the evening with Jocelyn's aunt and uncle, we actually drove out to Omaha, and we got to spend some time with her grandmother and her dad, and we actually even got to meet our new nephew, who was just born a few months ago, and he is absolutely adorable. I have some secret plans, although not so secret with the family. I don't know if corrupt the child is the right word, but I'm gonna make this the brainchild of the 90s and teach him everything about Transformers, Thundercats, and Motu, and everything that I can from like 80s and 90s nostalgia. So he's gonna be like the coolest and hippest child at school. Somebody's gotta raise this child in the way.
This is the way.
This is the way. This is the way.
So after spending some time with Jocelyn's family in Omaha, we drove from Nebraska to Tennessee. And one of the things we decided to do on this trip, instead of using gas stations as bathrooms and like rest areas, we figured, why don't we just hit like Walmarts and Targets? They're usually much cleaner, the snacks are cheaper priced, you also can walk around a little bit if you want to. We knew that the new Masters of the Universe Revelation figures that we were after were Walmart exclusives. So between Omaha and Nashville, We hit a Walmart in every single state, and we finally found all 4 figures. And it happened to be that we found 2 of them at the last Walmart in Nebraska and 2 of them at the last Walmart in Kentucky. After about 12 hours of driving, we found them. So if you're looking for Masters of the Universe Revelation figures, all you have to do is go out to the Midwest and just drive up and down between Omaha and Nashville. That's the only thing you have to do. So one of the things Jocelyn and I knew that we wanted to do, in addition to hitting all the Walmarts and Targets in different states, was go into some comic book shops and collectible shops in areas that we weren't familiar with, because we're not there all the time. We're not scoping the shelves and seeing what they have and seeing the same inventory every single week. As some of you may know, one of my favorite lines to collect is Street Sharks. And I am constantly on the hunt for Street Sharks. And from Connecticut to Omaha, there were no Street Sharks. From Omaha down to Nashville, there were no Street Sharks. When we got to Nashville, one of the first places that we went to was Totally Rad Toyhouse. And this place lives up to the name. You walk in the front door and you look to the right, and there's just this entire wall of vintage Motu. All individually bagged, some complete, some incomplete, but everything is marked and labeled and fairly priced. And that's one thing that means a lot to me, is scalpers make so much off this market. One of my favorite figures from the Motu lines is Trapjaw. I mean, Trapjaw's so cool. I mean, the dude has like a metal jaw, but he's going upwards of $35, $40, $50 on the secondhand market when, you know, he sells for $15. But because he's sought after, people know they can get money for him. And that's just the one thing's like, you know, scalpers gonna do what scalpers gonna do. But when we walked into Totally Rad Toyhouse, their prices were fair. Their prices were normal. And I was floored by this, because like I saw this entire wall of Motu, and I've been in stores where there are a wall of Motu and everything is exceedingly overpriced. Usually when a store has more inventory than you can imagine, it's because their prices are outrageous. Totally Rad Toyhouse was not this. Their prices were fair and normal. And when I talked to one of the employees, he was telling me that the owner is a collector himself, so he wants to get the items into the store so collectors can have them. His whole point is to get the items into the hands of people who want them. At that point, I was like, oh my gosh, I found my mecca. This is perfect. We saw the wall of Motu. We turn around, there's a wall of Transformers. You turn around again, there's a wall of Thundercats. And I'm like, oh my gosh, this place is phenomenal. So now we're scouring the shelves. I'm like, they have to be here. They have to be here. They have to be here. We come to a glass case. And what do they have? Street Sharks. I was ecstatic. Not only did they have Street Sharks, but they had the Street Sharks hand puppets. I have never seen these in person. I've only seen them in videos. I was born in '93. Street Sharks came out in '94. I'm a little bit behind the times with Street Sharks. I grew up on these from VHS from my local library. So being able to see these in person at a toy store in a case and being able to purchase them and get my hands on them, and for them to be in like near mint condition, I was speechless. I almost like fell down in the store. I was so excited. I could not believe it. They had the Street Sharks. So I've been building up my mainline hero collection, and Jocelyn had got me a big slimming for Valentine's Day. I had a Riptor coming in the mail that I got in a 3-pack on eBay from a seller that I knew, and I got Streaks from a flea market. There was only one figure that I needed that was left, Jab. They had Jab there in the case, right in between the 2 Street Sharks. I told you I almost fell down. I almost fell down for a reason, because they had everything that I would ever want right there in the store. They had Street Sharks hand puppets and Jab, the final Bolton brother of the mainline hero collection. We grabbed everything, we brought it right up to the front counter, and I'm asking the guy, do you have any more Street Sharks? Are there any more Street Sharks? I mean, we've driven cross country from Connecticut to Grand Rapids, Michigan, to Omaha, to Nashville, and there have been no Street Sharks. The first place that we go in when we get to Tennessee has Street Sharks. Like, surely there has to be more Street Sharks. And the guy goes, no, I think you bought it all. I'm looking around the store, and off in the distance behind the counter, they have all the old Pez dispensers and knockoff brand Pez dispensers. And they had a Street Shark, and they had a Street Sharks Flicks dispenser that came out in 1995. Say that 5 times fast. If you are in the Nashville area, please check out Totally Rad Toyhouse. I'm gonna put their address and information in the description below. They are phenomenal, hands down. If you love anything from like the 80s to now, you are going to find something you will absolutely love, or you're gonna see something like, oh my gosh, I completely forgot that existed. So please go check out Totally Rad Toyhouse because they are phenomenal. We actually went back 2 to 3 more times over our 2-week stay in Nashville. Their merchandise is rotating so frequently. Every time we went, we found something cool and new. We got a complete Strider with all the parts. We also found an old vintage TV tray from Masters of the Universe. If you can sense a theme here, we're pretty big Masters of the Universe fans as well. I was pretty floored. I'm gonna flash a picture up on the screen of everything that we collected throughout our drive from Connecticut all the way to Omaha, down to Nashville and back. This included everything from video games to VHS to collectible toys to, I mean, you name it. This is everything that we got, and it fills up the dining room table. And as you know, in the previous video, the video games from the previous haul filled up the dining room table. So having 2 collectible hauls that have filled up the dining room table, the office isn't gonna hold it for much longer. So Jocelyn and I have made the decision to start remodeling the basement. So I'll put a picture up of what the before looked like, and it's pretty dungeon-esque and does not look good. We've done some work. We took down all of the frame beams, capped them all off, made a little half wall with a bar top that goes around. This is like a 30-foot bar top that goes around the entire perimeter of that basement, or half the perimeter of the basement. It's become this whole little media room that's become like a museum and homage to the 80s and 90s, and it's absolutely amazing. So as I said, we're kind of outgrowing this space here in the office, so we're remodeling the basement. So stay tuned for updates on Instagram, whether on Alex Forest Music or on the Forest family, and we'll see you around. Bye everyone.
Close my eyes, see your feet up on the dash. Empty wallet, no cash, and a Red Sox ball cap. Back when we were young fools.